Well, let's introduce our guest on News Hour tonight. We're going to be talking about Iran and Israel. Ambassador Sanjay Panda, former senior diplomat, is with us. Thank you, Ambassador, for being with us. Now, what do you make of Abbas Araghchi's meeting with Vladimir Putin? What's the geopolitical calculus? What message or what signal does it send out?
You see, after America getting into the attack and attacking the nuclear facilities, Iran has not got the kind of response and support from many countries which it was expecting. So first, its first step was to address that press conference in Istanbul yesterday, and then its meeting with Putin. But let me tell you that Russia will be a little reluctant to get into this, situation now because this would further escalate. And Russia has its own internal compulsions, already embroiled in the Ukraine war and already burnt its fingers, and this
Yes.
economy is in a pretty bad shape. So obviously, Iran expects this support from Russia, and Russia, at best, will be able to give what quote unquote moral and diplomatic support at this stage.
Ambassador Panda, what can we expect, from Iran potentially actually ending cooperation with the IAEA and, getting out of the NPT?
This is a very difficult situation. You see, now the three sides, Natanz, Isfahan, and more importantly, Fordo, the IAEA, these are under IAEA inspections. There were inventories of what they had there. Now, after President Trump has announced the splendid attack and the fact that this has been decimated, and we really didn't know what has been decimated and what remains. So now Iran can clandestinely go ahead and do whatever it wanted to do and say that, look, everything was decimated, so I am at point zero. And IAEA inventory and inspection has no meaning now. Even if Iran comes to the table now for negotiations, but still on the nuclear issue, it's actually a big loss, I would say, for IAEA, whatever it had done. So I take this whether this was the right move to attack the nuclear facilities by with American intervention. I mean, this is only we'll have to wait for the
Okay.
future, and posterity will hold us.
True. Ambassador Panda, also, what are the risks, of escalation after the Israeli attacks on Tehran's Evin prison? And also, do you see, some sort of impact on the internal stability within Iran as a result?
Yeah, that is what you see initially when every war, every conflict situation has two aspects. I mean, there is something that you were threatened externally, which is the external aspects, or there is something which is, I mean, a threat scenario which you are trying to counter. And the second thing, if you have some domestic compulsion, internal issues which we want to divert attention. In this case, very clearly, Israel was reacting to Iranian statements and that, okay, would like to annihilate the entire Jewish state. So, and this was, Israel was coming to the saying that, okay, Iran is on the verge of making a nuclear bomb. But the very fact that it could not, take it on, and that is why probably US got into the fray. But the way I look at it, this has already marked a major escalation. You see, you
Okay.
have to understand, Iran is a country which has got which is a big history. It's a civilization, Persian civilization. It's not a banana state that you trifle with. You have to give it its due importance. And so Iran, when it says when it said, okay, you have its response today to US that you have started the game, but we will end it. Mark my word, Iran, at least for the domestic audience and for
Okay.
the people, will have some kind of attack on US assets in the neighborhood, in the Middle East and Gulf. And so far as the internal strife is concerned, I mean, that is what initially Trump said that, okay, we are not looking at regime change. But today he has again said that, okay, this is a possibility. Now, there are, it's easier said than done. But in case there is an internal, there's a lot of the younger lot, they do not want a nuclear
Yes,
Iran. I mean, they just want a proper
peaceful.
developed Iran where they have opportunity. But having said that, inflicting a regime change from outside is not quite the norm that we
Fair
should
enough.
be having.
Indeed, Ambassador Panda, also, can Iran actually close the Strait of Hormuz that it's threatening to do when actually much of its earnings come from it? It exports oil also to China from there. So, I mean, it's like shooting itself in the foot, isn't it?
Mark, you're spot on there. But then, Strait of Hormuz, if Iran says that it is going to block it, it's considering, and if it does that, that will be suicidal for Iran.
Yeah.
But having said that, any step, when push comes to a shove, then you can go any length to prove a point. So Iran might just do that. But then there are forces which will ensure that Iran doesn't take the state of blockading the Strait of Hormuz, especially China. You know, the amount of oil and crude that moves to China via the Strait of Hormuz is something that Iran cannot afford to, rub China on the wrong side at this point in time. So I think, only the next few days will have some clarity on this. But if Strait of Hormuz blockade really happens, we'll get into the 1970s scenario of the oil crisis.
Okay.
So it's difficult, but may not happen.
Also, should Iranians be prepared for some significant radiation increase or radiation leaks? What happens if that's the case? Because at that point of time, who takes the blame? After all, it was the Americans that blasted the sites. And I mean, it's up to Iran, who's saying that there is no radiation increase. But if there is, then what's happening?
There have been seismic measures have happened. You see, in Fordo, if you really are close to making a bomb, then when you have this bunker busters, from B2, the missile, it is G257, I think.
Right.
Yeah, 57, which goes 200 feet below the ground level, and then it explodes there. Now, then it will really decimate everything. So, if Iran was close to it, there would have been radiation already. But then, there's been no radiation that has been measured as of now. And let me tell you that the other two facilities, like Nans and Isfahan, they were attacked by the Tomahawk missiles from the, probably from the submarines in the Northern Arabian Sea. So these, actually, the monitors suggest that there have been no radiation so far, although there
Right.
was seismic activity which was noted. But if that happens, I mean, how do you, who do you pass the blame on?
Indeed.
Would the Americans take the blame? So I think, some decisions have to be a little measured and taken and not impromptu. So anyway, that is another issue.
Okay, we leave it there. Thank you very much, Ambassador Sanjay Panda. Thank you for throwing light on the situation in Iran. And those dreaded bombs that Ambassador was talking about were the GBU 57 bunker busters, which were dropped by the B 2 bombers.